Hey, everybody. Welcome to the actual first episode of Inside the Firm. The first one was just a pilot. I'm here with my co-host. I'm Lance Psycho. This is
Alex Gore. How's it going?
So Alex has a quick read for us, I think.
Yeah, our first sponsor today is Revit Furniture. So if you're transitioning from AutoCAD to Revit, don't do it without the guys at Revit Furniture. Full disclosure, that is us. So it's more than just furniture or family. What it really is optimizing your time and your production by giving you a system. So when you're transitioning, obviously from any program, it's going to be extremely hard and difficult. There's going to be things you don't know what's available, all that. So as you listen, to this podcast, you will see our evolution and why we think that our template and system is great. So it gives you a template, a system to base your transition off. It gives you families. It gives you tutorials for your whole firm to use, teaching you how to make projects, how to make families, all that. It gives you a whole bunch of families to plug in. And then the cool thing that they're offering right now is that your first project that you transition to, they'll actually set it up in Revit for you. So that's going to take away a lot of the hassles and kind of get you going. So if you're interested in that, if you're transitioning from Revit to Furniture, reach out to revitfurniture.com. You'll see the information there. Contact us. Our email, akg@f9productions.com. So that's our first read.
So the last episode, the pilot episode, we kind of just gave a general overview of who we are, what this podcast is going to be about, the things we'd like to cover, and a lot of that was basically we're just going to kind of tell the story of how we started and then where we're going from here and how the firm operates. Just kind of give you guys literally an inside look at the firm, pun intended.
Yeah. So what happened last time is that we got laid off. We got laid off from our firms, and there was no one hiring whatsoever. So you heard the phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. We had to take the other approach because no one was hiring. So if you can't join them, we had to beat them. And that's what this podcast is about, starting your own firm and starting from scratch.
So Alex mentioned last time also that he got laid off first, and then I subsequently followed. I technically started the firm while Alex was in grad school because he thought, again, it was going to only be about a year recession.
And funny guy.
Yeah, hilarious. Ended up being about 4 or 5 years. We finally pulled out of it in Colorado in 2013. And so I got laid off in the summer of 2009 and was immediately, we're both seriously dejected, graduated at the top of our class, and then to be able to get laid off like that was really disheartening. So, but at the end of the day, one thing I even tell my kids is it's okay to fail as long as you get up the next day.
Yep.
When it's a bad idea to fail is when you don't get up again, right? Yep. So I kind of got on a huge mission, namely because I had a family to feed. I couldn't just stop working and stuff like that. So
yep.
I just
got to point out this point. I got laid off first, so I called Lance and told him it is coming. It is coming.
It is coming, and get ready.
Winter is coming. That's probably what I said. So then you still had a job, and then you knew this was coming, and that's kind of how you started out. You didn't get laid off and then started it. You started beforehand.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that applies for anybody in that kind of a position. I really think if you're an intelligent person, if you have any kind of brains, and you're working at any kind of business, when people are starting to make up work for you, where it's not really, you can tell this, whatever work I'm doing, I know it's either not billable or it's just kind of filler work to keep me busy. And it was week after week after week what I was doing.
I must not have a brain because when they laid me off, someone mentioned you guys had to know we were just making up that work. I was like, no, I thought it was legit.
So some of the work, the main catalyst, the main kind of work that I was doing leading up to getting laid off was I started to do cold calls. And what I was doing cold calls was going after building product manufacturers at the old firm I used to work for. And we were trying to get them on board to put all of their things into Revit. And for anybody who doesn't know what Revit is, it's basically like today's AutoCAD. It's today's version of drawing and modeling buildings and building components. So I started doing that and doing cold calls. It was actually pretty uncomfortable. I mean, who goes to architecture school and then gets put in the position where they're doing cold calls and actually trying to get business for the firm? Mm-hmm. So in addition to doing that, one of the things, and I mentioned this last time too, was I noticed after using Revit in a firm that does a lot of modern buildings that there wasn't modern furniture. And so I went out on my own, went to hivemodern.com and started making all the modern furniture I could in Revit, and then I started uploading it to TurboSquid. So I was, Alex and I were having these discussions, and I started putting up so many models. I put several hundred within like a month or two, and this was leading up to me getting laid off. So then once I got laid off, I had those models up on TurboSquid. I started getting the attention of one of the lead talent developers over there, and then the next day after I got laid off too, I put up an ad to Craigslist that was just for me doing handyman work again. But when I put that ad up, it was, and I wish I had that ad, but it was, and maybe I can pull it up here if we hit pause or something like that. But it basically explained like I was a very responsible guy, like really,
very normal and straightforward. I think the point you're going for is all the ads we did on Craigslist and all the ones we do now on Thumbtack and all these other things we'll get into is just I'm responsible, I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, I'm willing to, work and do stuff like that. There isn't any kind of magic behind it. Would you say that? Or is
I don't
this
think
the
so.
magic?
I don't think there is. I think they're honest ads, 100%.
Yeah.
And they're reassuring to people to take a chance on us. So in that ad, I also put that I could obviously do design work. And in Colorado, you don't have to be a licensed architect to do residential design work. So I started to get, I got a few people in Boulder. Boulder kind of, thank God, I was in the Boulder area because a lot of people still had cash and they were able to, they were able to still do home remodel projects and stuff like that. Yep. So I started doing all this handyman work. But then it did start to lead to, with the handyman work, there was one guy in particular, his name is Hans, and he hired me to do, so I was doing handyman work for him.
Hans.
Yeah, Alex went out to meet him. I think if you even go back in our blog right now, you can go way back to 2010 or 11 or something like that, and it shows the final product of what I did. It wasn't anything fancy. All we did was we designed kind of a new roof to go over his existing roof so that he could put solar panels on top of it. But that led me to then start to think about, oh my gosh, I actually think there's still a fair amount of people out there that they might not be building giant houses. They might not be building, 70 apartments or anything, but there's still people out there that their families are growing. They need more space. They're going to have small additions. And so Alex and I came from firms that it was get a big project, rely on that big project to sustain the firm for a whole quarter or throughout the whole year. And our idea and the antithesis of that was the opposite of that was what if we started running a volume-based firm?
Yeah. And before we get into that, I kind of want to point out that there's a couple advices on how to start a firm. One of them is agenda-based. So it's, hey, know yourself and know your client and know what you want to do. I want to do modern work. I want to do historic preservation. I want to do cabins, and then know your ideal client and really focus in on that. That's a good approach, and some people can actually do that. We did not do that because if going back to the ad, we didn't have an agenda because who knew what was out there? It was such slim pickings to begin with that it was kind of take everything that you can. And then that was our approach. That's what we had to do. So we had to design a system. How can we take everything that we can? So we essentially realized that there wasn't going to be a bunch of huge, big projects where we could rely on those commissions. We'd have to do a bunch of small commissions. It was during the recession. So this was when I came down, because I think this was my idea. It was my first, probably best idea I've ever had.
To do the volume-based stuff?
Yeah. No, to run the ad. The Craigslist ad.
No, that was my idea from the beginning.
No, the fishing ad.
Oh yeah, the fishing ad. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was the only, for the record, it was Alex's only good idea ever.
That's it. I had one, and I'm happy for it. So think about this. Now you're in the recession, or you're starting a firm. what do you know that your competition is like, and what are they doing? Other people have years of experience running a business. We did not. And to put this in context, Lance had kids to feed. I was out of college with some debt, not as much as other people, and had nothing. There was nothing going on. Well, I even worked for a summer doing landscape work at, who knows, $10, $12 an hour. I have no idea what it was. It wasn't too much. So it was last resort. It was do or die time. And that's when we came up with the idea of, okay, we need to pretend that we're a client, put an ad out on Craigslist, and see what people come back to us with.
So what we did was, and I actually would encourage anybody in any business industry to do this. I thought it was brilliant because of how well it worked.
We should maybe do an update one.
It might not be bad. It might not be bad. So what we did was we put an ad out on Craigslist, pretending we were a client that was going to do a custom cabin in Colorado. And I actually managed to dig up the old spreadsheet of all the data that we got from everybody. So it was a cabin that was 1,252 square feet, and what we asked for was we said don't contact us via email or anything like that. Just respond to this ad with your proposal. It gave us two different kinds of data, which are super valuable. People would give us a square footage. Some people would give us a per square foot price to design and do the cabin, and these are all architects or just residential designers. And then they also gave us their average hourly rate. So from there, we ended up with...
Well, I think we extrapolated that. We didn't ask for that, so they would give us a contract.
Oh,
and their
that's true.
contract
That's true.
would basically say a price. So then what we did is we put this in the spreadsheet, and we probably got... How many responses did we get, Lance?
It looks like we got about 50.
50? And I remember, I think within the first 3 days, we got like 40 of them.
Yeah.
So that's how much... And one guy even said, I'll beat anyone's price because I'm starving.
Yeah.
I remember that email.
Yeah.
So then we put everyone in a spreadsheet, and then we broke it down by square footage price. And then a lot of times at the end of contracts, they'll say, hey, for additional services, my hourly rate is X. So then we could do an average of that, and we could get the average square foot price and the average hourly rate. And the average hourly rate was
$44.60.
So
and this was in 2010.
Yep. So we started off, was it at 40 or 45?
40.
Yep, at 40. You should remind me to talk about bad advice after this.
Okay. Oh, yeah. There's a great story about that. Yeah, some bad advice.
Some really, really bad advice. So don't take all advice, even ours, right? You have unique situations. And then the other thing that we saw is we saw everyone's contract. You want to hit that?
No, I want you to get...
Oh, he wants me...
I want him to eat the mic.
Get closer to the mic. You got to hear my voice. We saw everyone's contract, and we got a variety of super big, complicated, just craziness to a
one-page, very easily digestible contract.
To an email that just said, "I'll do it for this price."
Yep, and then also, like to get more detailed, there was also some really good examples of people would either show examples of what you would get at the end, or kind of list out the process. So all of a sudden, we had this huge archive of contracts that we could parse out the information we wanted, take away what we don't, include what we do want to, legal jargon included.
And what was great about that is that we could rethink the contract. And
we could rethink the contract as if we were the client. What would the client want to see?
Exactly. So then we basically, started our own. We had all these ideas in the back of our head, and then we said, okay, let's set up a contract that gives them what we're going to do, what we're going to deliver, and what the phases are. So it was a very incremental contract. And it was one of the first things that they would see is they'd be like, oh, okay, they're going to do this week, then they're going to do this the next week, and then this the next week, and put it together like that. So it was great being that close to the ground, but also in charge at the same time.
And this was, I swear, so I've got a date on the spreadsheet that I'm looking at right now, which is April 13th of 2010. I think it was within a week or two of when you came down. I mean, this was like one of the very first fundamental things. And how would you ever even decide to do that? I mean, if you think about anybody who's listening to this who is actually thinking about starting a business or has before, no one tells you how to start a business. I'm sure you could read all these kind of books, all different kinds of books. You could go to a business school and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, or the organic way of doing it, like we did,
Yep.
is a pretty valid.
It's funny. This really brings me back because I remember having that idea and looking over to you and saying like, we should do this. And
The word of caution I would give though is I did try to look up the original ad that we ran for this, and I couldn't find it because I wanted to read it on air. But the reason we can't find it, and here's the word of caution, is I think we used like a fake email address, so it couldn't get back to us because I don't think we wanted to come out there, and directly show who the heck we were doing it, so that we would for sure look like a real client.
Right. We wanted to look like a real client. The reason we're, letting the cat out of the bag is because I think it's important. And then also, you should know, in other industries, they share prices. So when you go to an apartment complex, those apartment complexes call other apartment complexes in the area and say, hey, what are you renting for? And they tell them because the next week, those other guys call them. And they all, I wouldn't say, you could, I don't know, is that collusion? Maybe that's collusion. I don't know.
And on that note, so I think what Alex is getting to is like, I bet everybody who's listening to this, they're having a moral dilemma. They might, or not everybody, but some people might be having a moral dilemma of like, is this okay to do morally? And I think it is 100%. Because did it cause any harm to anybody? Not really. At the end of the day, just because we set our prices to beat the average price doesn't mean we were undercutting everybody. Because if I look at the spreadsheet right now, Jimmy, I'm not joking, that's actually his name on the spreadsheet, there's no last name, was $14 an hour. So our idea at the end of this was we're going to be the middle guys. We're always going to be the middle guys.
Close to the average.
Yep. We're always going to be the middle guys. And that helps us build the volume-based business, and then we're going to beat the competition through personality, through personality and through punctuality, 100%.
Yeah. So where do you want to go with this?
I kind of wanted to read the original ad. So just in case anybody else is, just let me give you just a quick example while Alex gathers his thoughts. This was the original ad that I ran when I got laid off, and it was posted on 2011, in 2009, I think. Yeah. And then, because I got laid off, I think 2 days before that. So it was, the posting title was Young, Smart, Hardworking Carpenter. I am a young, smart, and then in quotes, master's degree in architecture and hardworking, quotes, plenty of references. Carpenter, painter, architectural designer looking for work in the Boulder, Longmont area. I have over 11 years of working experience in the construction field, ranging from small residential remodels to building new schools. I also boast a good education with a master's degree in architecture, so intelligence and a solid work ethic is guaranteed. I am open to any work available, so there's no job too small. Whether you are a homeowner in need of extra hand in your latest project or contractor looking for a reliable and hardworking man, please contact me. My going rate is $16 an hour cash for small 1 or 2 day jobs. I prefer to bid on anything larger than that. So I was easily able to maintain our pretty meager lifestyle, my families and I, when we got down here just off of that, which then allowed me to segue into getting the first set of real work at the firm, which we could probably talk about next, actually.
Well, actually, I'm going to go back.
Okay.
So obviously, getting work is almost a precursor to starting a firm. Once you've already started a firm, now we start side businesses without actually the work, because we know we're going to get it. So, but going back to how to start a firm, you need to get work. So when I was in school, my master's in construction management, Julie Snow, who's an amazing architect up in Minnesota, I asked her, she came to speak, and I go, hey, how did you actually start your firm? She goes, I was working for another big firm. And one of the clients I was the lead on, and I wanted to leave the firm and start my own. So I asked my firm, if I could take this client, and they said yes. So she already had a huge client, that she could already hire a couple people. And I thought, well, that's great for you, but man, that does not for everyone else who can't take a client.
And even then, you could argue moral dilemma at that point. I don't think there's any black and white about how you get these initial clients. I think you just at the end of the day, you got to build the foundation. And
I am giving her the benefit of the doubt that she asked her other firm, because I don't know if she said that or not, but we'll just assume that she did. Okay, so getting work is number one. Then number two, which I think people see as an obstacle, but it's really not an obstacle. It's registering your firm for the state, starting a bank account, and then getting on a real payroll.
Yeah.
So
getting on an actual payroll, not just paying yourself out. Let's say you finish a $5,000 job, you pay yourself the whole $5,000. I'm talking about put the $5,000 in, set a salary aside for yourself, and something that is meager that you can just squeak by until you actually get established.
Exactly. So just to reiterate, let's start logically. To start a firm, you register on your state website. Go to do you know what's the Colorado one?
So most of it is Secretary of State.
Yes. That's
so
what it is.
I just registered another business up in North Dakota, and same thing, Secretary of State. Montana, I've had businesses there, same thing. So if you just Google Secretary of State, like say you're in Connecticut,
how to register a firm.
Yep. How to register an S Corp, an LLC, a trade name. There's usually just two things you have to register. One is like a trade name, and that's just what you're going to do business as, and that's a pretty small fee. And then the other
It's like
one
$9.
is it's like $10.
Yes.
And then the S Corp is a little bit more than
50.
that. And, there's an LLC. There's all kinds of different corporations. I think you have to, at this point, it's on you to sort of decide what you want to do. Or how deep the legality will go for you. And we're not here to advise you exactly which, S Corp, LLC, or anything like that. But it is simple.
And I think we're supposed to say, if we had a legal advisor, that we're supposed to say a disclaimer, go see a legal person, blah, blah, blah. But I want to let you know that's not what we did. We did not go and pay someone $1,000 to set up our business. We didn't get an accountant. I mean, we have that now. We actually have a
To be completely blunt, here's what we did. So we did the trade name F9 Productions, and then what I started it as an LLC first. And then when Alex got here, then we fully incorporated to an S Corp. And part of that was because I knew that the firm I was at before had an S Corp, right? So I bet if you're in another firm or another business, you could, and you want to start a similar one, you could basically follow their lead, right?
Yep. Hey, one of the guys, we are in a working office. So Jason, can you answer my phone or just shut it off?
That's Al Gore. If his phone isn't dead, it's just making noise.
Yep. So for literally $50, you can start a company. You can start a company for $50. It's that easy. Then the second thing is make a dedicated bank account. So like what Lance said, then you put the money that you get in that bank account, and then you just draw a regular salary. And literally, even to this day, Lance and I do not take big salaries. We try to be meager, and then at the end, if there's a bonus, then we'll dish it out. But we're still afraid of the recession, afraid of whatever. So you take a salary, and then at the end you deal with whatever's left, if anything's left. And what's great about that is that you don't know how. We have an accountant now, and then we have a financial advisor now, and they keep saying, man, it's crazy how many businesses don't do that. And then they try to get a loan and they can't. And you never know when you're going to need a loan, because with the tiny houses, everything, like they pop out of nowhere, and literally it's get everything done and financed in 3 months and design it and build it.
And you know who I'd really give credit to sort of forcing our hand into doing this is Sherry Gore, which is Alex's mother.
Yeah, Sherry, shout out.
She did. It was her. Right. It was her. She said, "You guys should really put yourself on salary. You should really start a bank account." And it was smart. It was super smart. So from day one, we've always been W-2, even though we're the owners. And and here's why it's so. Like Alex said, for a loan, it's so important. We would not have been able to build the tiny house, the first tiny house, if we weren't able to take out a loan. We actually took out a loan even before that to just pay off the credit card, so we started establishing business credit. And so we had to personally guarantee that. And what a bank wants to see, no offense to bankers, but they're uncreative, and they need to just get things filled in the blank. So if their head explodes if they don't see W-2. So when Alex and I went to go buy individual houses, and we bought them within a week of each other, it was just not a problem because we had all that W-2 work. Even though we're owners, what they don't like is if you're an owner and you just take these bonuses because you're not showing a steady stream of income, you're not showing like stability and everything like that. The other thing that the bank is going to tell you too when you go in to start your first business account is they're going to ask for an EIN. And that is a tax ID number for your corporation. So that's the other thing you can do. But again, please don't be intimidated by all that stuff. There's so many resources on the web for you to just look up the differences between the X Corps, Most states, you can just register everything online, and then the same thing with the EIN. Those forms are for free through your tax dollars, and you can just set them up and do them. We start businesses in less than an hour.
Yep. The other thing is, shout out to my mom and shout out to who else? Gail, my aunt. Because then it's how do you pay yourself? Like once you put that money in the bank account, then you just don't physically take it out. You have to pay taxes and
through a payroll.
And I think the first month or two, I tried to do that myself, and then I got very annoyed at it, and then realized that there was a service, ADP, which is $23 a month, and they will do all of that for you. So then all of our taxes are made, all of our W-2s are sent. I don't have to prepare that. I don't have to know about all this nonsense. I don't know how much to go to Social Security. Because I remember those first couple months, it's like, wait, how much do we have to pay and send to where, and where does that check go? People do it. I think Gail, my aunt, she does it, and she's probably smarter or just knows the system, but you can pay just $23 a month or whatever it is. And then everything like what Lance is getting to looks legit. Because you are becoming legit.
Yeah, and the biggest purchase that I'm most proud of recently is Alex and I are under contract for about a piece of land to do a development, so we can finally actually become developers. And again, I don't think if we wouldn't have had that track record of a steady salary for almost 8 years now at F9, I think it would have been awfully difficult to get it done.
So circling back to the beginning is once we decided who we wanted to go after, and we knew that we needed to do a lot of small projects. Then we had to develop a system for it. So Lance already made all this furniture and all this components before he even started the firm. Then we needed to make a template so that when we did all these additions, we could produce them fast. So like we would set up all of our sheets, we would set up all of our views, we'd set up all of our schedules, and that's kind of over the years, what has turned into what Revit Furniture is. So it's not only, I guess the point that I'm making is that the things that you do for yourself or for your business, you can double down and maybe sell to other people. There's always something you can build off, even if it isn't financially successful right away.
Exactly. So circling way back, let's talk about the first foundation of work that we got at F9, and really it's still a huge part of what we do every day. And that's building information modeling with this piece of software that Alex is talking about, Revit, and then we traded Revit Furniture. So I was doing all that freelance modeling, got noticed by TurboSquid.com, one of the talent developers over there, and they ended up saying, "Hey, how many models are you going to put up?" And I had like a crazy number in my head, like 5,000 or something.
Yep.
So from about September when I started putting up those ads until December, I had been in negotiations with them to start doing modeling for building product manufacturers. So what they did is they started working with Sumex Design, which works with ArcCAD. So can't say enough about Sumex Design. They've been a business ally of ours since the beginning. Huge shout out to Robert Wygant. Awesome guy. Great mentor. He is also part of the reason why we developed into volume based. He saw the writing on the wall about competing with the other BIM developers, and he's always kind of beat it into my head, like if you can still make just as much money per hour as the other guys by setting up a system, but do more volume than them, then you've got them beat. There's no way they can compete with you at that point. So that's also where this comes down to. So we ended up finally just working with Sumex/ArcCAD, and what we do is they go after the biggest building product manufacturers in the world, Pella, Marvin Windows, you name them, all kinds of name drops, and we put all of their products into Revit.
To this day, it's a large part of our.
To this day, there's basically three people in our firm that work on those projects off and on, every other week.
Yeah. So that's it.
So, well, is that it with everything?
I don't know. You tell me.
No. That because we had that foundation, and that kind of leads back to Alex's like Julie Snow story about she had that one big client to work from there. If you have, the idea is, that's one leg of F9 starting out. And then from there, we started to go to the other legs and started to branch out to, okay, can we start doing little remodels? And then can we start
doing residential
and getting with teaming up with developers to try to be their architects and stuff like that. And so that's I think in summation, my what I've always thought is, and I was even telling my son this the other night because I'm trying to encourage him and his stepbrother to start their own business. We want to call it Step Brothers Lawn Services or something like that.
Oh, I thought it was two boys in a shovel, or two boys in a
mower,
lawn.
Something like that. So if anybody actually has another idea, I would love to hear it. So it's basically going to be two 12-year-old boys. I want them to literally do what I did: start a Craigslist ad, make a little flyer, and they're going to go from the ground up and try to get clients in Longmont. And my idea was, because I'm flexible, I'm the boss. When one of the co-owners, I can take them to their job site in the morning. They drop them off at this house. They go mow a lawn, I pick them up, and they go home for lunch. They're only 12. They don't need to work half the day or something like that.
Exactly.
But what was crazy about when I was telling Kyler about this is he's worried about failing. And so he was held back from just jumping in on the idea with me. So I've been trying to get it across to him, and now you guys I think where it comes is you just have to leap. Alex and I didn't have a lawyer when we started this, and for better or for worse, I mean, we dodged a few bullets that we're actually going to talk about in a future episode or two.
Yep.
Or three. We didn't have an accountant. We just had ourselves, and we had our brains and some willpower.
Yeah. So I guess if you're going to take anything tangible from this today, start with something you know. We knew architecture, we knew building, we knew construction. So maybe that's why we weren't too afraid of the leap. Take something you know and either make a Craigslist ad advertising it, or start doing that and put it on a blog, put it on a website, put it on somewhere that, someone can see it.
And be consistent.
So I would say maybe if you are afraid, you just do it and start putting it on the web. If you're less afraid, make an ad and go for it and see what happens.
And what is the worst that can happen, right? You fail, and then you either get back up or you just move on to something else. Yeah. But the startup,
we'll tell you failure stories too.
Yeah.
We got them.
Plenty of them. I don't think there is, the startup costs for us. Well, we had to have an apartment somewhere to start this thing. We already talked about the small fees it is to start the LLC and all that stuff.
Yep. The apartment, it was in my dining room, so that was already taken.
And we had a computer. So I know, other businesses need a ton of equipment and stuff like that. But if you're sort of where we're at with design and as far as software, a lot of things are based on the cloud. I say just you got to leap, you got to start, and if that start doesn't work, well, you saw how easy it was to start a business. Just start another one. It's a new name. It's not a big deal.
Yep. I'll throw a curveball at you. So since that's the past, do you want to talk anything about what's happening right now in the firm? The curveball that we've got thrown by the city for our new development project?
Sure.
Anything like that? Okay. So as you know, we're doing design build. We want to build, it's 6 apartments in one building, 6 townhomes,
condos,
multifamily. And then on the other building, it's all on one lot, our new headquarters plus 2 more. Well, we just got the safety official, basically the fire marshal. He couldn't make it to the meeting. That was last Wednesday.
2 weeks ago almost, yeah.
Yeah. He couldn't make it to the meeting. So we didn't get to hear his comments. And then we got the comments back from the city, and I was reading through it. And we have a 24-foot drive aisle. And they basically say 26. Okay, no big deal. So that's our alleyway that connects it. And they say it has to be 15 feet away from the building. So our site is not that wide. If we have to go 15 feet away from the building on either side, we're basically have to eliminate one whole building, which kind of makes it uneconomical. So we literally have to go back, set up a meeting with the fire marshal. And the rule is why we have to do that is because we're over 30 feet with 3 stories. And the only thing that's over 30 feet is a parapet. So now we're going to see if we can do some landings like we've done in Lakewood so that the fire official can get up there and go more easily. What will also help us, Lance? So on this, we're going to have from the 3rd floor up to the rooftop, there's going to be a rooftop deck. There's basically going to be an outdoor stair. And I think that will help them too, because if you're on the front, you could just go to that one and then run up the stair, and it's outdoor. So that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Let's not make that glass so their ladders shatter it.
So that's the big stuff. That's the big stuff we got going on. And I think one thing that I wanted to start doing at the end of every podcast, unless you have anything else to say.
I do. Please contact us with any questions you have, anything you want us to talk about, anything you want us to bring up. AKG at f9productions.com.
Or LMC at f9productions.com.
Yep. Email us your questions.
We're also, follow us on Facebook if you're not following us on Facebook. So facebook.com/inside the firm. We're on SoundCloud. We're on iTunes. If you are a listener, if you've liked at least one or two episodes, but we only have two, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps boost everything. We're also on Stitcher. You can Google us and find us there. So last thing, I'd like to leave everybody with a quote for the weekend to ponder. And it's by John D. Rockefeller. So don't be afraid to give up the good and go for the great.
Love it. Talk to you later. See you later.